quotes, infused with the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. You can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com, and while every episode will always be free, if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for tons of bonus audio content, including TV and book reviews, immediate reaction movie reviews, Patreon potpourri episodes, movie commentary tracks, and early access to content. If you heard the last episode, episode 383, that was a sneak peek at the first two dark reviews that I did without my voice cracking. Anyway, check that out, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find me on social media and Letterboxd at obsessiveviewer. And joining me today is recurring co-host and fellow IFJA member, Ben Sears, who can be found on Letterboxd at Ben Sears and on Twitter at The Movie State, and his website can be found at themoviestate.com. Ben, how are you doing this evening? And are you ready to talk about Heartland Film Festival?
I'm ready.
Nice.
How are you?
Nice. I am doing quite well. This is always a very hectic time of year for us with covering like Heartland and having some IFJ obligations and everything. It's always busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me about Heartland Film Festival.
There's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be.
Nice. So today on the show, we are going to be giving kind of a preview of some of the films that are playing at this year's Heartland Film Festival. There's going to be virtual screenings starting today when you're listening to this, if you're listening into it the day that I posted, but it's running from October 6th to the 16th or 17th. You can find more information at heartlandfilm.org, as well as a way to buy tickets and unlock virtual screenings. This is the 31st Heartland Film Festival, so that's exciting. But before we get into Heartland and kind of talking about the selection that they have this year and what's exciting us and what we're excited about, Ben, what have you been up to with themoviestate.com?
Just the usual lately, a lot of TV reviews, actually.
Nice.
I started, mentioned last time I was on, I mentioned the new TV project where I'll be covering season 2 of Community. That's been really fun so far. Still in the early goings, but it's been really fun.
Nice.
And then finishing up actually next week, I just realized this last night, but as this episode is being released, only 2 more episodes to go in the Rings of Power.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun. Some really good episodes, and a lot of fun covering it on a weekly basis. So
nice.
Check that out. And then it's all Heartland from here for the next 10 days.
Nice. Very nice. I'm excited to talk to you about Heartland and everything. And I'm planning on starting Lord of the Rings here fairly soon. I've been busy with TV stuff of my own for Patreon. I've been pumping out, I am incredibly proud of the dark reviews that I've been doing. And I just really, really want more people to watch that show. Robert in Utah has just infected me with the bug of dark, and I'm very much enjoying that. And then I've also been working on For All Mankind episode reviews that are going to start on October 24th, and I just finished the 7th episode tonight. So it's going to be nice to have all of that on Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, of course, and with tons of other stuff there too.
We'll have to talk about For All Mankind off mic, because that 7th episode is a big one.
Yes. I adored that episode. Yeah. Is that the one that you were kind of hinting at that you would want to talk to me about?
I think it is. I was reading the plot descriptions on Wikipedia earlier today, and nice. Also, apparently, I was not aware of this until today, but there is apparently a post-credits scene at the end of the season finale. So then heads up for that.
Season finale of For All Mankind?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's definitely good to know. Dang, that's weird.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Do you want to get into our episode talking about Heartland Film Festival?
Oh, I forgot to mention this week's poll question on the website. What is your favorite horror movie franchise?
Yes.
And yes, I already know what your answer is going to be.
Yep.
So
already voted.
Okay.
It is, of course, Scream. I can't divorce myself from that at all. How about yours? Because I saw that, like, you haven't seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of by default, I would say it's also Scream, because that's really the only franchise that I've seen. I've only seen the original Halloween. I've never seen any of the Nightmare or the Friday the 13th movies. And I was trying to... I know I left some off of the list, but I couldn't think of any when I was making it. Like Final Destination, maybe. Yeah. Or
Saw.
Saw is on there.
Oh, Saw is on there. Okay.
I've seen, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 of those.
Okay.
But I don't really love those.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what other ones Texas Chainsaw Massacre, maybe?
Yeah. The horror genre is so interesting to me because in terms of franchises, it is, by and large, I feel like the horror genre is very much like very up and down, like more up and down and crazy than any other genre with their franchises. Because like one of the reasons why Scream is my favorite is that it follows pretty closely. Like it's not, in terms of continuity and quality, like it never really feels like that much of a cash in, and there's always something that feels like organic to it. Whereas you have just stuff that's basically filmmakers throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks with other franchises. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on some of the entries in the Halloween franchise. In particular, because there's some interesting stuff in there and some just not so interesting or good stuff. So
maybe I should have thrown in the Aliens franchise, but I think that maybe is that more sci-fi than horror?
That's kind of unique. I would say that it would fall under horror more. Well, I would say sci-fi horror. The kind of tricky aspect of that is that like Aliens is basically like the action movie version of an alien story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So interesting. So let's talk about Heartland. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Nice. All right. So this is the 31st Heartland Film Festival here in Indianapolis, and we've each seen a selection of movies so far. It kicks off tomorrow. They have a bunch of special screenings that are going to be playing throughout the festival, that we're both hopefully going to be attending, several of them, I would hope, and
together and separately.
And it's a really fun time of year. And Ben, if you wouldn't mind us getting kicked off and talk about what's your history with Heartland? How has your experience been over the last couple years that you've been involved with it?
Yeah, the first one that I really remember and really dove into was 2019. And there were some really good movies that year, like Greener Grass. I remember that one. That was I've been meaning to rewatch that because I remember really loving that one.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how much I watched in 2020. I mean, we did the Hitchcock night.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
Honestly, I can't remember anything else that they screened that year for that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think that's really just 2020.
Right.
Like that's a byproduct of that. Because I don't think I wrote really anything or did anything with Heartland for... Oh, no, I did.
Yeah, I did a couple.
Yeah, I wrote 4 reviews for 2020's Heartland. In Case of Emergency, All for My Mother, Song Without a Name, and 76 Days. I loved 76 Days. Yeah.
Yeah, and then last year was pretty great as well. Last year was my first year actually going to in-person screenings, and that was really fun.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm excited to cover even more of it this year.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I've been doing Heartland kind of intermittently since, I think, 2015 or 2014. And it's always fun. I love the communal aspect of it and how it's a really good time, and they put on a really good festival consistently every year, and it's really cool. Yeah, I'm just looking at my archives and everything. Yeah, so and this one is no different, and I really like the way that it's kind of like this, like other festivals as well have kind of embraced that virtual / in-person hybrid thing. And I don't know how that is in the grand scheme of things for the bottom line or whatever, but I think that it just opens it up to more viewing and more opportunities for people to see things. So I really like that. I respect it.
Yeah, for sure. Like my sisters don't live in Indiana. I have other family that doesn't live in Indiana, so I can always recommend them to watch things from wherever they are, and
nice.
It's a great option.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna kind of do like a potpourri, kind of extended potpourri kind of structure for this, but I did want to mention that of course, Ben is going to be covering Heartland on his outlet on themoviestate.com, and I'll have links in the show notes for all of that as well. But this year is different for me because I'm actually covering it for NUVO.net for the first time. So I already have, by the time this episode releases, I'll have 4 reviews posted on NUVO.net. I'll put links in the show notes and everything. And then I'm hoping to do more as the festival rolls out and is in progress and everything. I've got a few reviews in the hopper that's going to be posted, but look on NUVO.net. Around 6:30 every morning, I'll have a review posted on NUVO, and it's really fun. It's really exciting that I get to, play, play in that arena and everything. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's great. I read a couple of them so far, and it's really awesome.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah. And there have been some really, really good movies. I don't know exactly what all ones you've watched, but I know that you've watched one that I was a big fan of that we'll talk about. But do you just want to kind of go round robin and like you get us kicked off with a movie that you've watched and we'll talk about it and kind of discuss it and kind of go from there?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Nice.
All right, where do I want to start? The first one I guess I'll talk about is called Home is Somewhere Else, and this one actually will be so the way that I'm going to do my Heartland coverage on the website, you're doing like full big reviews of individual films. I'm going to do kind of 2 or 3 movies at a time on any given day. Just kind of shorter, smaller reviews, kind of blurbs. Just, 150, 200 words a piece. That way I can recommend more.
Totally.
But one of the ones that will be posted on the first day of the festival is called Home is Somewhere Else. Matt, did you ever watch last year's Flea?
I never
documentary
did.
The animated documentary.
Right. I never did get around to that.
Okay. Well, I think this one is kind of similar to Flea in that it's a animated documentary, and Flea was about a guy who was forced to move from his home to Russia and was trying to get out of Russia and trying to illegally immigrate to a different country. And that is essentially what Home is Somewhere Else is about. It's actually kind of an anthology kind of series. It's broken up into 3 short films. All about different people and their experiences immigrating from Mexico to the U.S. And it's really interesting. Each segment is animated differently, so you get these kind of personalized animations, which help, which is a nice touch to it. But the stories are really interesting, really harrowing. Just if you've heard any kind of story of someone's firsthand experience about what it's like to be an illegal immigrant from Mexico or Central America or wherever to the U.S., it's very much like that.
Wow.
So, it's a really it's one of, I think, if not one of, maybe the only documentary that I've watched so far, and it's one that I liked quite a bit.
Interesting. And it's called Home is Someplace Else?
Correct. Home is Somewhere Else.
Somewhere Else. Okay. Nice. I will definitely have that on my radar. It's something that that's a blind spot for me as well, is that I haven't watched any of the documentaries yet. And I know that there's one that it speaks to me. It's Cat Daddies. I'm gonna be watching that tomorrow.
Well, you made that movie, so you don't have to necessarily see it.
Yeah, in Patreon we talked about semi-autobiographical movies. There's mine.
Yep.
But I am genuinely very excited for that one. But I mean,
and I think someone, one of our colleagues, wrote about that on Midwest Film Journal.
Yeah, so. I think Sam Watermeyer did. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to watch that and read his review, because I'm sure it's excellent. Yeah, so that really speaks to me. Have you seen any other documentaries, or is that basically the only one?
Not yet.
Okay, gotcha. Are there any that are high on your radar?
Yes.
Nice.
Maybe we should have talked about this off mic. Do you want to do a bit at the end where we kind of talk about other ones that
is a great idea, honestly. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll save that for the end. You want me to go ahead and give my first kind of pick that I want to discuss in this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Episode. All right. So my first one is something that I know that you've seen. and I believe you actually maybe interviewed the filmmaker for, but it happened one weekend. The black and white filmed rom-com, filmed entirely in Indianapolis. I was pretty charmed by it. The plot summary is, after a weekend that doesn't go according to plan, two best friends find themselves single at the same time, forcing them to confront their feelings for each other. Written and directed and stars Zach Cooper and co-stars Mary Moore, Jesse Epstein, Wilson Mack. This movie I was pretty charmed by. I was tickled by. Romantic comedies, obviously, I'm an unabashed fan of them, and this is a movie that has a certain reverence for romantic comedies that are really played up. That reverence is baked into the premise a lot. And I found a certain charm to that, and when the tension kind of reaches a point where, like, the tension between the two characters reaches kind of an apex point, basically, I was pretty interested. I was pretty engaged, and I thought that it was pretty well done. What did you think of It Happened One Weekend?
Yeah, I'd say about the same. I actually watched that as part of Indie Film Fest.
Oh,
and
that's
yes,
right.
You were correct that I did interview the filmmaker, so you can read that on the website. And yeah, I think it's very much like a throwback kind of rom-com,
Mm-hmm.
very much in a like When Harry Met Sally kind of classic, just straight down the middle rom-com.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked Zach and Mary's chemistry together. I think that goes a long way in helping sell it. So
yeah,
that's just something that you can't just pull out of a hat. Really, it's a really understated element that works really well.
I definitely agree. Like, when it gets to the point, like I kind of said or danced around, I guess, when it gets to like the point where they're really confronting their feelings and everything, the kind of drama of it and the implications of what it could mean for their friendship kind of really takes center stage. And I really appreciated that sort of switch, or that change up in the tone, specifically because it throughout the movie up until that point, the movie is very kind of quippy, and it has a lot of kind of not social commentary, but commentary on just singledom in your 20s in the movie, and having like this like relationship questions and everything. But once they get to the point where they're like, oh wait, what's going on with us, it really kind of elevates it to a more dramatic arena, while still retaining that sort of fun, cheeky kind of aesthetic. So I appreciate that they can transition into different things there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is your next one?
Well, I'll keep it in Indiana, because that one,
Nice.
It Happened One Weekend, is part of I think it's the Indiana Spotlight category.
Yeah, and actually, before we get to that, sorry, what did you think about Indianapolis being like so prominent in it, like filmed in Indianapolis?
It's really cool. I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure there are some, but I just don't remember any other movies that I've seen that really feature Indy so well.
Yeah.
And I remember asking Zach this, like, it's filmed in such a way that you would think that he was like an Indianapolis native, but he's not. He just moved here a couple of years ago. So
wow.
Yeah, it's really great.
That's incredible. Interesting. Yeah, so that's It Happened One Weekend. And yeah, if you want to continue with the Indiana Spotlight, sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's so the another movie that's part of the Indiana Spotlight category is called Always Lola. And I give me one moment because I'm on the Letterboxd page for it and it just says plot unknown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's one of the tricky things with festivals with Letterboxd, because Letterboxd doesn't pull from like IMDb. It pulls from like the movie database, which is, you know, used a little bit more sparingly in terms of the independent arena. So like there are a few, like on my list, I actually uploaded the cover art to the movie database myself. Yeah. So did I stall enough for you, or do you need more?
You did.
Nice.
Yes, well done. Spoken like a pro.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
From the Heartland website, after popular high school senior Lola dies, her best friends reunite on their annual camping trip to honor her, only to discover murky secrets around her death that threaten to unhinge both her memory and their friend group.
Interesting.
This is a Heartland says this was filmed in West College Corner, Indiana, wherever that is. But it's an interesting little kind of character study, I guess. Lola is this very much energetic, kind of unpredictable young person, and the whole she dies very early on in the movie, and so the rest of the movie is just like these friends just trying to deal with that fallout and how much she meant to them, and kind of how much you want to honor someone's memory when you don't always have the best memories of them, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like she was kind of a bad influence, I'll just say that, on some of her friends, and so some of those feelings kind of come back lingering after she passes away. It's maybe not a great movie. There's some kind of narrative contrivances that didn't really work for me sometimes. But it's a solid little movie. It's relatively short, so I think it's pretty decent. Some decent performances at sometimes. Very
nice. So that's Always Lola, and yeah, interesting. I might eventually pick that up and check it out, because I really wanted to do all of the Indiana Spotlight, but I mean, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches. Like they have a lot of stuff there that really kind of piqued my interest. So it's just basically a race to get as much watched as I can.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. Okay, are you ready for my next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to talk about Because We're Family, which is directed by Christine Neihart Kaplan and Angela Stern, and written by Angela Stern, based on her stage play, Mama's Eggnog, I believe. And I have a review of this, and It Happened One Weekend, on NUVO. I'll put a link in the show notes, of course. But Because We're Family, the plot summary is... while Dallas and Courtney have been coping with their mother's death for over a month, their youngest sibling, Belinda, finally returns from Tibet in time to collectively witness their mother's cremation. The three then return to their childhood home to live and grieve together for the holidays. Reunited under one roof to celebrate the Christmas holiday, the family realizes that some holiday traditions are just too difficult to digest. And this movie was kind of a blast. It's a dramedy that doesn't shy away from the kind of heavy the heavy burden of telling a story about grief, but also doing it through this very comedic and high energy, just kind of almost crazy kind of sheen. And it's really entertaining. The group, the siblings are very kind of eclectic, and like when Belinda, the youngest sibling, like she's very eccentric and kind of a free spirit character. One of the big points of contention in the movie is that she starts dating while she's like visiting and they're grieving together and everything. She starts dating the man who worked at the crematorium, who cremated their mother. And it's such a weird, almost surreal, but not really, kind of thing. Like there's a running gag where his name, like that guy's name is Mitchell, and anytime someone refers to him as Mitch, he corrects them as Mitchell, and it becomes like this thing that just really gets under the skin of all the siblings. And it's just like little things like that are a lot of fun. And then it goes to some places that just go kind of crazy with the humor, but also bring out a certain level of catharsis that's needed for that kind of grief story. So I don't know. I got a lot out of it. I had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, it was really good because we're family. Mm-hmm. Has that been on your radar at all? Have you watched it?
I have watched it.
Nice. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was better than I expected it to be.
Nice.
I think whenever you read a plot description of like a film festival movie, like a smaller film festival movie, and there's like the words like quirky or dramedy in there,
yeah,
it's almost always like a recipe for disaster.
Right.
Because you're almost always in for some weird, like weird for weird's sake, or just, people behaving unnaturally.
Yes.
But I would say for the most part, the drama in this is relatively natural.
Nice.
I think there was some good humor, not like over the top, just again, humor for humor's sake.
Yeah.
With maybe one or two exceptions. But I thought the characters were pretty well defined, and it was enjoyable. I also like that it's a holiday movie, but it's not about one specific holiday. It's kind of about the holiday season. So, and just like what all that entails, especially when you're dealing with a recent death.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really interesting angle to it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's because we're family. And how about your next one, Ben? What do you got for us?
All right. Actually, one of my favorite movies that I have watched so far, it's called Waiting for the Light to Change.
Nice.
And I will have sorry, I wasn't as
no worries.
prepared for this as I should have been.
This one is definitely on my radar as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I will have a it's not coming up on here. Even when I search waiting for oh, I know what I did wrong. Anyway, it's I will actually have an interview that I did with the writer and director of the movie.
Nice.
Coming to themoviestate.com at some point during the festival. I haven't scheduled it yet, but
okay.
Soon. Anyway, plot description. Over the course of a week-long beachside getaway, Amy, having recently undergone dramatic weight loss, finds herself wrestling between loyalty to her best friend Kim and her attraction to Kim's new boyfriend. This one is another one that's streaming virtually, and you can see it in person. It looks like it's screening Friday, October 7th and Saturday, October 8th.
Sweet.
Directed by Lynn Tran. And I think this is a really interesting movie. It's and I just think that it's interesting just in the way that it was filmed mostly, because it's very much like a loosely written, almost improvised. And I talked to her about that when I interviewed her. Loosely written, almost improvised kind of screenplay. Almost all of the scenes play out in these long takes where the camera just barely ever moves.
Oh, nice.
So very much like a fly on the wall kind of thing. It plays into some really natural performances, and it just really speaks to the subject matter really well, of like that kind of, they're all in their like early 20s. So it really speaks to that kind of aimlessness of that age when you just don't know what you're doing.
Nice.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it. I think it's one of the least conventional movies that I have seen so far out of the whole festival. And I appreciate that, because when you see a lot of these film festival movies, they can get kind of not necessarily bad in their repetitiveness, but it's always nice to see something different, you know?
Yeah, especially when with us, and we're watching a ton of stuff. So like anything that can stand out and stand out well is definitely a good sign. So that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. And again, it's a short movie, so very highly recommend.
Nice. That's Waiting for the Light to Change, and it is.
And it's the debut, directorial debut of the director.
Yeah.
So I was even more impressed with it from that perspective.
Very cool. Nice. All right. Do you want my next one?
Go ahead.
All right. We've got, this is one of the standouts that I've seen. I've got, it's called The Moon and Back. It's written and directed by Leah Bleich. And it's very good. It's the plot summary is: 1 year after her father's death, high school senior Lydia Gilbert feels completely lost until she discovers something unexpected: a space opera screenplay needing a blockbuster-sized budget written by her dad. Equipped with just a VHS camera and pocket change, Lydia decides to honor her late father and make this script a reality. The Moon and Back is very, very charming. And again, it's interesting. It's another example of a movie that plays in that kind of grief space and about a character that is experiencing grief and working through it. But the way that The Moon and Back operates is it has this very fun aesthetic to it, in that it is displaying the amateur filmmaking of someone who is not in the filmmaking arena. Like, this high school student she doesn't know how to make a movie, and what she's doing is really working through her grief. And it really comes together in a very nice way when she confronts that grief and enters into that cathartic space. And it's really charming. I was incredibly charmed by it, and I think that the lead actress, Isabel May, did a phenomenal job in the role. I think that she really played that well. There's this kind of running thing of her running away from like her obligations as like a high school senior and looking toward the future. And I think that there's this level of subtlety to the movie that is showing her as being this person who is suddenly finding herself in a state of arrested development because she needs to work through her loss. And figure out like how to process that. And I think that there's just a level of artistry to the filmmaking of that and the storytelling in the movie that I really latched onto and really appreciated. Yeah. Have you watched The Moon and Back?
I have.
Nice.
Yeah, that was actually, I think that was the first Heartland movie that I watched.
Oh, very cool.
And that's another one where I interviewed the director. And
nice.
I believe I'll have that posting on Friday the 7th.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Nice. I'm going to try my best to update the show notes throughout the run of the festival with our links. So if you're listening to this after the festival, check the show notes and we'll have all of the content in the links and everything. So yeah.
One thing that I don't know if you had read this about the movie, but they only had 9 days to shoot it.
Really? I did not read that about it. Holy crap. That is incredibly impressive. Huh.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I don't know what brought on that limitation, but yeah. And this is the director's first feature. So,
yeah, that is insanely impressive. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'm kind of blown away by that. Yeah, my review will be posting on NUVO.net tomorrow morning for The Moon and Back. So check that out for sure. Yeah, it was one of the standouts of the ones I've seen. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. How about your next one?
All right. So, go figure. This is one that I'm prepared. I have the plot description pulled up for, but it's fairly long. So,
okay.
But it's called The Wind and the Reckoning.
Okay.
I won't read the whole thing, but essentially it's a period piece that is based on a true story about Native Hawaiians who in the, I think it was the late 1800s, American colonists came over to Hawaii and started to take over and started to move people infected with leprosy into these essentially camps or farms.
Wow.
So that they were isolated from everybody else. And it's about a family that tries to resist those American colonists. And it's a really well done, just independent period piece,
nice.
Which I mean, I gotta give them kudos for that, because I don't know what the budget was, but I can't imagine it was all that much.
Yeah.
There's no recognizable stars in this. So, any of the crafts were really well done. The, production design, hair and makeup, is extensive because there are several people that you meet that are infected with leprosy, and a lot of prosthetics go into that. So just really impressive work there. And then costumes, it's shot really well. The cinematography didn't blow me away, but I think it's still pretty solid.
Nice.
Yeah, and then just a really interesting piece of history that I was not aware of. So, very impressive there. And I believe, one sec, yes, streaming throughout the festival, and then screening in person on October 8th and 9th.
Sweet. And that's called The Wind and the Reckoning?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I'll have to put that in my list as well. Yeah, I don't even think that was really on my radar. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to see that. Because you don't really see a lot of period pieces in the independent space like that in festival circuit, because like you said, by its nature, it's better to do. It is a tougher barrier of entry to do a period piece without a big production involved.
Yeah.
So that
because they're
sounds
so
really
expensive
impressive.
and a lot of independent studios just don't have the budget for it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So my next one is as of right now, it's the only I believe it's the only Heartland horror film that I've watched. Heartland Horror is a newer addition to the festival. Started a few years ago, I think maybe 2 years ago. It's a selection of horror movies for Heartland Horror, which I think is a very good meld, because Heartland takes place in October. It's a smart move to have a horror selection. And this movie is called Follow Her. It is directed by Sylvia Kaminer and written by Danny Barker, who, if I'm not mistaken, is in the movie. Yes, she plays Jess, and co-starring as Tom is Luke Cook. The plot summary is: an aspiring actress responds to a mysterious classified ad and finds herself trapped in her new boss's twisted revenge fantasy. And so this was a very solid movie. There were pieces of it that didn't really connect with me, unfortunately, but the things that did were pretty impressive. This movie kind of boasts this very strong, almost meet cute at the beginning of the movie, where these two characters interact with each other. The man, Tom, played by Luke Cook, is this charming, Australian, I think, person who kind of sweeps her off her feet a little bit, but there's also this edge to him that we kind of know, there's maybe not everything is as it seems. And when when things kind of transition into that more conventional horror kind of thriller aspect that it kind of loses me, because I think because there was such a drastic change in that actor's performance, and he did so well in the first part, that it kind of took me out of it a little bit. But as far as a thriller where it's a kind of confined thriller, it worked for me more than it didn't work for me, and I feel like it was pretty solid. So yeah. Have you seen it?
I think I have not. I think that's another one it's the director's first movie.
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was solid. I think that people will get more out of it than I did. There's an aspect to the story that I felt was a little bit, it was an interesting angle that I feel wasn't explored as well for me. But basically, he hires her. She takes an internet classified ad, and he hires her to finish a screenplay that he's working on. And when she gets there, she realizes, oh, the screenplay is just it is a written down depiction of their entire day that they've met, and it turns into this twisted he says it turns into this twisted role play kind of thing. I'll leave it at that because I want to be vague. That I think is a very interesting and unique premise, but I feel the movie didn't quite explore that aspect of it fully enough for my liking, but people may get a big kick out of it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of do one more, or do we want to keep going? Because I've got one more. I'm saving the kind of my personal favorite that I've watched. And I'm also kind of nervous that you're going to say this one.
No, I'm not.
Okay, good.
I can do kind of two quickly.
Okay.
If that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine. We can actually do two more and then do our kind of what's on our radar pick.
Okay.
You want to do that? Yeah.
Do you want me to give them both at the same time?
No, you can do one. I'll throw another one in too. So we'll just keep going and we'll each do two more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first I'll stick with the Heartland horror.
Mm-hmm.
This is one that I just watched today, actually. It's called Last Radio Call.
Oh, I almost watched that one today. Yeah, that's definitely on my radar. How was it?
Well, I'll give the plot description first.
Of course.
Written and directed by Isaac Rodriguez. On July 18th, 2018, Officer David Serling went missing inside the abandoned Yorktown Memorial Hospital. Using his recovered body cam footage, his wife attempts to piece together what happened to him on that terrifying night. So this started out really well for me. I kind of like the Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity kind of, documentary-esque
Found
horror
footage.
movies. Yeah. And that's how this one starts out. It's kind of how the whole thing goes out, but
Okay.
I liked the opening because the opening, you see the body cam footage of his time inside that hospital, and I thought there was some really effective, creepy kind of stuff in those body cam segments.
Nice.
Those moments I feel like would play really well in a theater. So for that alone, I would say go and see it in the theater if you can.
Nice.
The performances are not all that great. There's a kind of stereotypical Native American kind of supernatural element to it that I wasn't too totally thrilled with. But I think it provides some interesting moments and some interesting kind of scares.
Nice.
I think it's really interesting.
Nice. Yeah, that definitely piqued my interest. And it sounds interesting. Like I said, I really wanted to watch all of the Indiana Spotlight and Heartland horror movies, so that'll probably be the next one that I watch, honestly. Very, very intrigued by it. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to do my best to watch all of the horror movies as well. There's only 5.
I think there's 5, yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and say my personal favorite that I've watched so far, because I'm really excited about this. It's a movie called What We Do Next. It is a very unique movie in the way that it is kind of shot. Okay. I was vamping to get the plot summary. Written and directed by Steven Belber. The plot summary is: a New York City politician is forced to navigate her complicated past with a young woman recently released from prison and corporate attorney. Power constantly shifts among the 3 characters as they fight for their version of the truth. This is a very interesting movie that I feel like it, by the way, it stars Karen Pittman, Corey Stoll, and Michelle Ventimiglia. And it's, when you get to the title card in the movie, it says a film in 7 scenes. And throughout the course of the movie, we have these 7 very extended scenes that have 2 or 3 of these characters in the scene together. And I found it to be so engaging and just incredibly well written, incredibly well acted. And the power dynamics that were at play throughout this movie and the way that they shift and change are kind of astounding to me. I liken it to being somewhat feeling like an Aaron Sorkin movie, but without the way that I describe it is that it's like an Aaron Sorkin movie, but from someone who isn't Aaron Sorkin. That'll
someone
be the
that's
most
not obnoxious.
Yes, exactly. Someone that's not obnoxious and clearly has a story that they want to tell, and not a story that they want to force feed their own personal agenda into. Like, this is a very interesting story. And it's so, I love the acting. I thought the acting was phenomenal. Corey Stoll, I've been a fan of his for years, and I think he does a phenomenal job in this movie. Yeah, I was so taken with this. Ben, you recently watched it. How did you feel about it?
I did, and yeah, I'll echo what you said.
Nice.
It reminded me a little bit of last year's Heartland movie Mass.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just in the way that it's all so self-contained, and it's not all in one location, but each scene takes place in one location, and it's all dialogue, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the back and forth, and the way that like you said, the power dynamics, the way that they constantly change and evolve, was really interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It kind of blew me away a little bit. Yeah, I really, really liked it. And I love the way that the script does such a great job of refocusing us on the characters, because these 7 scenes, like, that's not a gimmick at all. Like, it is a 7-act story, and each act they catch up, like, the script catches us up with what the characters have been going through, because time has passed in between these scenes, and it's very much structured like a stage production, like a stage play. And because of that, I think that it really focuses in and hones in on the characters and gives the performers just so much meat to work with in their performances. And it was really, really remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I didn't totally love the kind of bumper moments when in between each scene, where it's like a radio announcer that's like charting the politician's career path. I mean, it's not a deal breaker or anything, but I wasn't a fan of that moment.
I can get on board with that. I can understand that. Yeah. But I liked it. Yeah, it's What We Do Next, and was very impressed with it. I was. So, yeah. Do we do one more round? Is that what the plan was? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So the last one, I'll go back to the Heartland horror section.
Nice.
And this is the shortest of the Heartland horror movies. It's called, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Teine Sa, The Ancient Ones. And plot description: after Teine Sa is a supernatural anthology film based on 5 notorious goddesses of the Pacific. So yeah, it's a horror anthology movie from New Zealand, which I mean, I don't know how many horror movies from New Zealand you've seen, but this was my first.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's a quick little movie. I don't know. Each one kind of has very similar themes of, like, someone is wronged or someone does something shitty, and then something supernatural happens and they get their comeuppance. Okay. And there are the interesting thing about that, I believe each of the segments is produced or is directed by someone different. Nice. So it allows them to, to bring their own kind of personality to it, and to give them their own spin on the kind of story. Some are more modern, some are more like allegorical, some are more like straightforward, some are, but they're all pretty interesting. I will say I don't think that it's really scary. Sure. I don't even know if it's really creepy, but it gets the job done. It gets you to root for these people to have their lives destroyed in one way or another because they deserve it. So 64 minutes. So just quick and easy, streaming online and in the theaters.
Sweet. And yeah, that's Teine Sa, the Ancient Ones. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I've been going through such a kick with horror anthology movies, honestly. So I am definitely going to be prioritizing that because it sounds very unique. Yeah. My final one that I'm going to bring up, I have a review of it on NUVO.net, as I have with all of these other ones that I've said. It's called The Allnighter. It is written and directed by Amy Graham, and it is, here's the plot summary. When an astrophysics student working towards his PhD loses priceless research to an auto theft, he makes a bargain with a woman at a local pawn shop in order to get it back. Seeking to resolve issues from the past with her family, Belle drags Terrence to the desert, where the two unwittingly play integral roles in healing old wounds, inspiring deliverance. A late-night encounter entwines the lives of two complex and resilient individuals as they navigate the challenges that threaten to dismantle them. This movie was pretty impressive to me, honestly. Like, it has this energy to it that is just very, very frenetic, and there's a level of characterization between these two characters, Belle and Terrence, that I feel does a pretty remarkable job at just telling these completely divergent stories and tying them together in such an intricate way. For instance, Terrence, his kind of big deal is like he's working on priceless research and everything for his PhD. There is a bunch of stuff, like there's a bunch of pressure on that, but on his family side of things, his mother has an addiction to gambling, and she's in deep with like loan sharks. So there's this level of pressure to not only get his research back, but for him to help pay off like the people that are threatening his family. And all the while, he's also living in the shadow of his brother, who is a massive celebrity and refuses to help the family, and everything. And it's such an interesting kind of character avenue to navigate because there are so many moving pieces. And on the other hand, Belle, played by Gretchen Lodge, is this character that has this family tragedy at like in the forefront of her mind, and she is like opportunistic in that she uses Terrence to kind of to kind of get her parents' approval in some cases and to kind of get them off her back. And it's a really interesting dynamic throughout the movie, and I was really impressed with it. The way that it was able to sustain the energy and the pressure throughout the movie was really, really quite impressive. It's the Allnighter. Have you watched this one? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. No, I have not watched it, but I probably will watch it sooner or later. Yeah, that does sound pretty interesting.
Nice.
Because it's it's the director's first movie, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. So, I definitely recommend it for sure.
All right.
Yeah. And did you want to now talk about some movies that we want to see or that are on our radar that we want to check out?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Do you want to kind of get us kicked off with that?
All right. Well, of course, you mentioned it already, but Cat Daddies. Gotta watch that. One that I almost watched today was a documentary called Paper City, which, if I remember right, deals with the aftermath of like the bombs in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, one of those, and the locals that have dealt with that for all their lives. So I'll probably watch that in the next day or two.
Nice.
Let's see. Again, I'll watch a lot of I'll try to watch all of the Heartland horror movies. Another Indiana one called The Country Club.
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about that. It sounds a little bit like a comedy, so I'm interested to check that out. What else? A narrative feature that is probably pretty high on my list is called Remember This. And that's mostly because it stars David Strathairn.
Yes, so, that's right.
I'm a pretty big fan of his, so I'm excited to check that out. And I believe it's about World War II, so another kind of period movie.
Nice.
What else? I have not watched this yet, but I will watch it and have a interview with the director of a movie called Surprised by Oxford.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
I think those are the major ones for me. Do you want me to mention the special presentation ones that I'll be going to?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be seeing Empire of Light, which is on Sunday the 9th.
Nice.
I'll be seeing Broker on the 12th and Women Talking on the 13th. And then the Banshees of Inisherin on the 15th and The Whale on the 16th.
Nice. Very nice. There's a bunch on my radar that I'm going to hopefully be able to see. In terms of the official selections and everything, I definitely want to see 1-800 Hot Night, which I'm very curious about that just because it sounds like a fun movie. Like you, I want to see The Country Club. And then there was another one on here. They have some really good special presentations also, which I'll talk about. But I also want to see Remember This as well. And then in terms of, I think, documentaries, I want to see Butterfly in the Sky, More Than Corn, which is interesting because More Than Corn is an Indiana spotlight one where it's Genesis and Eli, husband and wife farmers based in Noblesville, Indiana, share their journey to produce delicious local food. And I don't know, there's something to like very kind of small documentaries like that I really like. Like, was it 2020 or 2021? There was a documentary called Welcome to Monterey that I really liked about this very small town in Indiana that I was really impressed with.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. And then I also want to see Paper City as well. And then I have tickets for a few of the special presentations, and I'm gonna hopefully go to them because my car situation is a mess. But After Sun on this Friday the 7th, Till on Monday the 10th, Broker on October 12th, Wednesday October 12th, My Policeman on the 13th, and The Whale. I will 100% definitely be at The Whale on the 16th because I'm very excited for that one.
Nice.
So that's what's all on my radar and everything. think once again they have just a great lineup of movies. And it's always really good.
To go back, 1-800-HOT-NIGHT, our colleague Nick Rogers,
yes,
really liked that one from what I remember, and wrote a pretty glowing review for it.
Yeah,
so,
he was a fan of that.
That's going up my radar as well.
Nice. Yeah. So that is basically our rundown, our preview of Heartland Film Festival. Highly recommend checking it out. Go to some in-person screenings if you can, or check out virtual screenings. There's a lot of good stuff there, and we just kind of scratched the surface on it. So,
all of the in-person venues that they're doing for the Heartland Festival are really fantastic. The Can, Living Room Theater, both really great spots and really great locations. And then some of the Newfields theaters are really cool. I saw my first movie at Heartland last year, and that was really cool. So.
Nice. Yeah, Newfields is great. I love the Toby Theater where a lot of the stuff is going to be. I really like that. All right, well, we will kind of wind down here. Before we go, Ben, if you could tell people where they can find you online and your website and what you got in the pipeline for themoviestate.com.
Again, just themoviestate.com has links to all my socials. But in case you're lazy, just go to Twitter at the Movie State, and that's pretty much where I'm active the most. So,
nice.
Nice. Nothing too exciting other than Heartland coverage coming down the pike. But go and vote on weekly poll questions every Monday, and then
Nice. Have you decided what next week's poll question is going to be?
I just did that today, actually. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Apparently, I think it was either today or one day this week, the 60th anniversary officially of Dr. No, the first James Bond movie. So it's going to be, what is your favorite James Bond movie?
Oh, nice. Interesting. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I really need to go back and watch all of them, but I've only seen like half of them. I've talked about it before, but I have such a soft spot for Moonraker. I don't think I would make it my favorite, but I have such a soft spot for it.
Okay.
And of course, we covered Goldfinger on the Ebert's list.
We did.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some good ones. So go to themoviestate.com, vote on the poll questions, and read Ben's stuff. So
hang out for a minute or two.
Exactly. As for me, you can find me on Twitter and everywhere at Obsessive Viewer, like the Facebook page, facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer, and then find my work at obsessiveviewer.com. You can find a whole archive of my stuff from this year at obsessiveviewer.com/matthurt2022. But for more content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, and you can sign up for the minimum rate of $1 per month, but the kind of sweet spot is $2 per month. I have a bunch of stuff on there, TV reviews, all of this stuff. So yeah, check that out and help support the show. And also check out my writing at NUVO.net. So I'm going to start playing us out. Ben, it's been a pleasure. And we'll hopefully maybe do another episode about Heartland afterwards, kind of a breakdown of it, maybe. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks.
Yeah. And now, enjoy this short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. For the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, such as early access to episodes, TV, book, and movie reviews and reaction recordings, commentary tracks, and Patreon potpourri episodes, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. I saw it last night, and I recorded a media reaction review last night, and for the $2 and above patrons. But so I'm not going to rehash anything there, but I will say that was not a fan. It did not do it for me.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Because I think we both really liked Booksmart.
Oh, yeah. I was a huge fan of Booksmart. And it's so mind-boggling to me that this movie has a third act that no one apparently questioned. Like I can't imagine it being written and then going through so many hands into production, into filming, into editing, into post-production without anyone raising the questions that I laughed at internally in the theater when the closing credits hit. Like that's my review of Don't Worry, Darling.
Nice.
Yeah, Florence Pugh's good in it, and Harry Styles is getting a lot of kind of flack for it, but I thought he did okay. So
that's I'm really curious about that. I might still see it in the theater. I don't know.
Yeah. Nice.
But there's way too many movies out in the last like week or two that I don't know if I'll be able to have time for all of them before they are gone.
Yeah. What have you watched lately that isn't going to be covered in our Heartland episode?
What have I watched lately?
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.